Let's take you live now to the Syrian capital, Damascus. Al Jazeera's Cal Perry is there. Cal, while the president was speaking, you took a drive down to Deraa, scene of anti-government protests and violence in recent days and weeks. What did you find?
Well, Adrian, this is where the protests started about a week ago, and because of the violence that was seen there, we saw protests in support of the people of Deraa around the country in the past week. We drove sort of 100 kilometers down south to Deraa, and as we entered the city, we went first through one outer ring of security, and then as we approached the center of the city, there was an entrenched checkpoint with two heavy machine guns set up, pointed down the road, and a group of at least, I'd say, a dozen or so Syrian army soldiers. They took our IDs. We are accredited to be reporting here in Syria. They worked the radios for a bit, and then they came back to the car and said, sorry, you have to turn around, you have to go back. We are not allowing any media into the city today. They said you can try to come back tomorrow. We pushed the issue with them, and they said we're not even letting Syrian state television into the city today. It was clear to me in looking at this checkpoint that the positions, the machine gun positions, were pre-sighted. They had pre-sighted these positions down the road to sort of protect themselves from any cars that would approach the checkpoint from the outside of town. I can also tell you it appeared to be a colonel who was looking down the scope, a long-range rifle scope down the road, sort of watching to see what cars were approaching. But again, it was evident that this checkpoint had been erected well before the speech started, and the streets were completely deserted. When we asked the soldiers, why are the streets deserted? Where is everybody? The answer we got back was everyone is inside, glued to their television sets, watching the president's speech.
All right, so that's what you saw. You've covered Syria for many years now. You've been there and reported from there many times. What do you make of the fact that there was this gun pointing down the road, the fact that you were accredited? You had every right, according to the information ministry, to go into to Deraa. Why wouldn't they let you in?
I think they're concerned about the potential that protests could flash back up again in the city of Deraa. Again, this is where the protests began a week ago. This is where there were casualties. Residents say at least 20 people were killed. The government says that they were fired on by the protesters. The protesters dispute that, saying that they were fired on indiscriminately by the security forces. I can tell you about 2 years ago, I went on an embedded trip with the Syrian army out to the Iraqi border, and there was less weapons on that trip out to the Iraqi border than there were at this checkpoint in downtown Deraa. The firepower, I thought, was pretty impressive, and the way that they had staggered these machine gun positions, it was clear that, again, they had sort of pre-sighted everything down the road, indicating to me that this checkpoint had been erected at least a few hours ago, if not yesterday.
Cal, many thanks indeed. Al Jazeera's Cal Perry reporting live there from Damascus.